This presentation will examine the 3 pedagogical approaches undertaken during this module. By traditional coaching, teaching aims for understanding, and constraints-led coaching will address the effect these approaches have had on the coaches, the learner, the learning environment, and the content design of lessons. We've chosen the traditional approach as our focused pedagogy, and our reason being doing so is because we felt that the key instructions and skills that we were teaching to the learners were essential for them to move on and take into each new week of practice.
Traditional approach. In the past, large amounts of coaching has been delivered using traditional methods that are often coupled with a direct and linear approach. It is often very coach-centered and generalized, failing to cater for individual needs of players. Light 2012 states that traditional coaching tends to use common practices such as demonstrations, questioning, and feedback, and activities are often in linear drill format. According to Ford, Yates, and Williams, 2010, these drill-type practices are based on the view that performance is dependent on the consistent reproduction of a limited number of repeatable motor skills. For example, passing, dribbling, and shooting.
Teaching games for understanding, or TGfU, is a coaching pedagogy that uses games to teach athletes about the sport and skills that they will need to compete in that sport. In 1986, Bunker and Thorpe developed a 6-step TGfU model with the following steps: game appreciation, tactical awareness, decision-making, skill execution, and performance. As described in Renshaw et al.'s 2016 study, the design of appropriate games to enable learners to understand key principles of games is a key feature of TGfU. Whilst adopting the TGfU pedagogy, coaches encourage their players to guide a discovery and are integral to setting the learning outcomes and structure of the session. During a session, coaches will look to question the learner's decisions, as they will look for their athletes to examine their own performance and find improvements for their training. This is so that athletes can improve their decision-making and understanding of the game, as they are having to decide what they think they need to improve and how they think they can do that. This can have a huge effect on the participants, as it shows that a good understanding of the game will greatly improve them as athletes, as they will learn to make decisions for themselves and have a strong grasp of the fundamental of sport from a very early stage. With the use of TGfU, there are huge learning opportunities for the learner, as they are provided with the opportunity to make their own decisions within their training sessions. From Hortigula and Gurriel's 2017 study, we see this as a great opportunity for the athlete, as it prompts them to recognise their own weaknesses and allows them to communicate with their coach and work together on how to improve their weaknesses. Another way in which TGfU is beneficial for the participant is that through questioning they will receive from a coach, they are forced to analyse their own performance and their team's performance, which pushes the athlete to develop their analysis of the game, which in turn progressively improves their understanding of the game.
As for constraints-led coaching, it's again a modern approach developed by Carl Newell in 1984. It's a non-linear, athlete-focused method of teaching. The idea is that constraints are placed on a game or a coaching session that encourages participants to adapt and overcome them in order to find a solution themselves. Renshaw et al. In 2015 also point out, key to understanding how to implement constraints is to accept that individuals' emotions, thoughts, and actions are shaped in conjunction with their environment. The constraint-led approach encourages problem-solving, skill acquisition, and long-term retention of skills.
Okay, we're going to practice the chest pass today, so it's just on the line and we push through. We've got our hands in the triangle shape around the ball and we push straight through, and when receiving it, we're the same again, straight to the chest. Pushing through, straight to the chest. Right? So we're coming now. Triangle, yes. Well done. Now that we've done the chest pass, is there any other type of pass that we do in basketball?
A bounce pass.
A bounce pass. And this is how we do it. We've got the triangle again. Push down into the ground. Straight across. Triangle again. With our hands up here. Getting ready for the ball. This. Beautiful. Done. Okay class, we're going to now practice a free throw and we're going to use the acronym BEEF. Does anybody know what that means? No? So we've got B is for balance, which is shoulder widths apart, knees slightly bent. E is for eyes eyes on the basket, eyes on the target. The second E is for elbow, which is your strong arm under the ball at a 90-degree angle, and then your weaker hand supporting the ball. And F is for the follow through, which is where your hands in, but score. Right, so let's go down. Here you go. Okay. Could you get in that position just before you shoot, please? Okay. So we're wanting to straighten up a wee bit. Nice and loose in the knees. Right. Further up, just on top of your head. Lovely follow through. It's better. Raise a wee bit more. Last one. Okay, class, what did we learn today?
What beef means. How to shoot a free throw.
Types of passing.
Bernardo?
Bounce pass and chest pass.
And overall, did we enjoy this session?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
The traditional coaching approach uses observation, demonstration, and clear instructions to coach participants. It also then focuses on analysis, questioning, and feedback. Therefore, this approach can be described as linear. It follows a strategic path and uses repetition of drills and block practice sessions to achieve results. Traditional coaching is coach-centred and treats participants the same rather than as individuals. This delivery mechanism is very prescriptive, as participants are expected to follow a one-size-fits-all approach, and coaches are often very slow to introduce learners to more complex practices. According to Gomes et al. In 2005, and according to Halleck et al. In 2019, this method of delivery can bring short-term success, but studies have shown that in the long term this approach is not as effective on retention and transferability of skills as variable practice. However, the impact of traditional coaching on learning opportunities for learners is still valuable, as this pedagogical approach has been shown to be very successful in the acquisition of skills, especially with young learners, as shown by Shea et al. In 1990. However, the traditional approach will be discussed more in depth by my fellow group members.
The traditional coaching approach predominantly focuses on immediate success, winning over development. Allison and Thorpe 1997 et al. Said that the traditional coaching approach is distinguished by repetitive drill-based sessions, often very coach-led and minimal individualisation, as the coach provides constant feedback and demonstrations. When delivering a traditional coaching session, a coach must introduce the skill, demonstrate the practice, provide the instructions, and then observe and provide feedback. Ford et al. 2010 investigated this theory by approaching a youth football coach and found that the sessions are mainly centred around training form such as isolated practice and skill requisition in game-related situations. This is a focused pedagogy because it develops basic skills which is essential for the children that are new to the sport. This is due to the approach being very skill-specific. Practices at blocked linear practices, which focuses on one skill at a time. This is effective because it allows participants to advance their basic skills in a closed environment and master techniques then they can use in a game. As a coach delivering the session, I had to follow the common structure of coaching by using fixed linear drills. And when I was delivering the session, I found that I was always talking to the children as a group, not as individuals. Cassidy, Jones and Potrick 2009 said that coaches using this approach tend to deliver many instructions and confront the entire group rather than directly to individuals. When questioned, the teachers thought that the traditional approach was the most effective and beneficial because it developed the children's basic skills and prepared them for more challenging drills and sessions later weeks. The teacher also commented that the children engaged very well within this session, even though it was recorded that their favourite session was the TGfU approach.
Although we found traditional to be very beneficial as a group, it undoubtedly has its faults. The frequent use of generalised verbal instructions, demonstrations and feedback can create an overload of information for learners. This can prevent them from engaging in the problem-solving process. Another common factor is the explicit content is easily forgotten and interrupts automatic motor processes, especially when the learner becomes anxious. This is according to Jackson and Belloc, 2008. The traditional coaching pedagogy is often used by coaches who want instant success, particularly with younger age groups. It is not used to develop players for the future. Unsurprisingly, such programs have been criticized for lacking enough reality of practice and not creating an environment that encourages the player to develop new, progressive knowledge, and this was shown in a study by Jones and Turner in 2006.
Harvey, Cushion and Mata Gonzalez 2009 study has shown that coaches who use the traditional pedagogy will often look to use the drills they've used before in a previous session. Through the use of drills that coaches previously used, they will be able to anticipate the outcome of each of the drills. During our sessions at the school, we used very simple drills that we had practiced before, meaning we knew what the kids would learn from the session and what skills they would learn and improve. The use of the same drills over and over again is useful for coaches to know that they will see the same results from participants at any age as they have seen it many times before.
The traditional coaching approach is very coach-centered, where the coach decides what the player needs to improve on, and then the coach develops training sessions around that. William and Hodges 2005 say that this approach believes that instructions are a key factor to be successful, and that giving the player some guidelines on how to perform the skill helps the process of learning this new skill successfully. Feedback is a very well-known method of helping the players to improve their performance, and it's often used in traditional sessions, usually in the form of a well done and good effort. The coach is responsible for providing feedback to the participants, as this approach believes that feedback and constructive criticism can be a very helpful and beneficial way to help the players improve on the skill and drill that was just performed, pointing out what was done well and what needs improvement. As stated by Araújo et al. 2004, feedback can be used to direct the observer's attention towards relevant information sources during performance and learning, while William and Hodges 2005 state that an important task for coaches is to provide learners with feedback so that they can improve performance on subsequent practice attempts.
For me, the key message I will take forward as a coach after studying this module is that there is no perfect or correct coaching approach. Our approach as coaches has to be varied and adaptable depending on who we are coaching. There's a time and a place for all three of the coaching pedagogies we have studied, and it is up to us as coaches to try and get that right.
I learned that although the traditional approach might have not been the most enjoyable for the children, it was a key session for the participants to learn how to perform basic skills in basketball. In our first session, we taught the children how to dribble, lay up, and during the warm-up, we incorporated passing so that they could also practice that aspect of the game. Both of the primary school teachers agreed that the traditional session was key. Teacher 1 stated that week 1 was the most beneficial as it went over basic skills which were essential for week 2 and 3. While teacher 2 stated that week 1 was beneficial as it showed the pupils who had less experience how to shoot, dribble and pass.